So if you know anything about gaming, you've probably heard of Shadow of the Colossus at some point or another. It's widely considered to be one of the best games of all time, and with the remaster that came out earlier this year, its popularity doesn't seem to be dying down anytime soon. But is all the praise warranted? Well, taking a look as someone who's playing it for the first time this year, I would say yes, for the most part. For this review, I'm just looking at the original PS2 version. I'm sure the PS4 version is probably better, but I want to see what this game was like in its original form, and what made it so acclaimed at the time it first came out. The premise is, you are a young warrior who travels to a forbidden land on his horse, Agro, carrying the body of his deceased lover. He brings her to an ancient temple in the hopes that he might be able to bring her back to life. The demon who lives in the temple says he can grant the warrior's wish if he completes one task. He must destroy the 16 altars in the temple. In order to do this, he must travel throughout the land and defeat the 16 colossi that roam through the abandoned countryside. And that's pretty much it. The story is very minimalist, but it does turn a lot of video game tropes on their head. Instead of trying to rescue a loved one, you're trying to bring them back from the dead. And instead of killing evil monsters who are terrorizing the world, you're slaying large but gentle creatures that aren't bothering anyone, and don't really deserve to die. It gives the whole affair an uncomfortable air permeated with tragedy, and it's pretty effective. My only real issue with the story is the ending. While the story is kept fairly simple and open to interpretation for most of the game, after you defeat the final Colossus, it suddenly becomes more elaborate and detailed, which felt off to me. It's not bad, but personally I think the game would have been better if it had kept things more mysterious and open to interpretation. When it comes to the gameplay, it's divided into two segments, traveling across the empty lands looking for the Colossi, and then fighting the Colossi. And that's pretty much it. Compared to a lot of modern open-world games, there's comparatively little going on, but I think keeping things simple and straightforward is one of the things that made Shadow of the Colossus so acclaimed, and why it's aged so well. After all, it's better to do a few things really well than to do a lot of things blandly. The fights with the Colossi are amazing, each one having a unique design and requiring different strategies to defeat. Some of the fights can be frustrating, but they're the good kind of frustrating, the kind that makes you all the more determined to keep going. And every time you finally fell one of the colossal beasts, you feel a mixture of accomplishment and melancholy unlike anything I've ever experienced in a game before. But while the Colossus fights are good, the parts in between are where I have a bit of a problem. Now, I understand the importance of having downtime in between each boss fight, but the way the game handles it seems off. The game takes place in an open world, but I'm not entirely sure why. The whole point of an open world is to give you lots of interesting things to explore and do, but apart from the Colossi, there's really not much to this world at all. It would have made sense if it was structured like Breath of the Wild, where you're turned loose in the world and you can beat the Colossi in any order, within reason. The open world would actually make sense then, as it would make the game feel more organic, and would add more replay value to the experience. But the order in which you have to defeat the Colossi is predetermined. In that case, what's the point of having an open world in the first place? If the game wanted to have a specific order in which you defeat each boss, then it should have just had each area appear in linear order. You could still adventure across the lands in between each encounter, but making it more structured and focused would have improved the flow of the game. Also, I don't like how the game teleports you back to the starting temple after every boss battle, as I feel it disrupts the pacing a bit. It could still have the cutscene after each battle where it shows the altar being destroyed, but I don't really see why the main character had to be physically transported back there each time. But while I don't think it's a flawless masterpiece, I can definitely see why this game is so beloved, and I can safely say that the good stuff more than outweighs the few gripes I have. This is another game that everyone should play at least once, even if it's just to say that they did and didn't like it. Although you're probably better off playing the PS4 version, assuming it's faithful to the original, which I've heard it is. While the original is good, the graphics are a bit dated. I noticed some lag and frame rate issues while playing, and I've heard that the controls for the PS4 version are better. So if you're like me and you're interested in the evolution of the medium, the original is worth a look, but if you're interested in playing the best games, the PS4 version is probably your best bet. Either way though, this is one game that definitely deserves to be played. My final score is a 9 out of 10. I can't say I loved it as much as everyone else did, but I liked it, and I can see why it's considered to be one of the best games of all time. So what do you think? Have you played Shadow of the Colossus? Is the PS4 version better? Whatever you think, be sure to let me know in the comments below. If you like what I do, feel free to subscribe and follow me on Twitter. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. So, the Colossus must be this way. Oh shit! I meant to do that.